welcome back to Galaxy Grudge Match. Last time we left on these two dynamic duos squaring off. Who will come out on top?
Oh wow,
Is something the matter?
I can actually hear you. Never thought I'd see the day.
Haha, my old mic bad, comedy gold, like you want to talk. Anyway, let's start off with a comment from Max.
Now, surely, when it comes to real fighting experience, Scorpion and Sub-Zero have it. They're trained and have spent several games beating the shit out of fellow skilled martial artists. But that isn't really a game Cuphead and Mugman are going to play. They keep their distance and shoot enemies from afar, while avoiding attacks. Unless you're shitty at Mortal Kombat and just hide in the corner shooting projectiles all day long, the Mortal Kombat cast usually are seen getting up close. Sure, Scorpion can teleport, but it's something that's telegraphed with a wall of flames beforehand. But it's just the kind of telling card that allows Cuphead and Mugman to avoid such surprises. Cuphead and Mugman constantly dodge homing attacks, whereas Scorpion and Sub-Zero's attacks tend to fly in a straight line. This makes dodging them fairly easy compared to what they're used to. It doesn't help that rather than Cuphead and Mugman becoming stronger for this scenario, Scorpion and Sub-Zero have become weaker. In Cuphead they actually showed they're pretty alright with being weak and growing substantially in power over the course of one day, even to the point where they can rival the devil himself. But Scorpion and Sub-Zero have never had such power shifts, and this may end up like the weakened status in the Test Your Luck game, except 100 times worse. Kahn will be wondering,
is that your best?
I never considered that Scorpion's teleportation resembled many of the attacks found in Cuphead, where there is a noticeable animation beforehand. This was a big part of Cuphead, and one of the main reasons the art style was so expressive in the first place.
Even if Scorpion's teleport is telegraphed, they still won't be able to tell with no prior knowledge that he's going to appear behind them and kick them in the back of the head. Sub-Zero can teleport too, mind you, and his is way less telegraphed. He can surround himself in a sheet of ice, and then the ice shatters and he's gone. He can get behind them and get the jump on them before they even realise he's moved.
They're just as fast as each other in this instance, so perhaps being so used to bullet hell would make things easier for them. They're generally going to have to dodge 2 attacks at a time, which shouldn't be too out of the ordinary. They dealt with Ribbit and Croaks just fine at the beginning of the game. I think Cuphead and Mugman could deal Sub-Zero teleportation. It still does have a giveaway. I think they'd be able to tell by the ice clone that appears when he does it, after he uses it once or twice. They're used to unorthodox abilities coming out of nowhere. Teleportation via trickery like this shouldn't be too much.
If Scorpion and Sub-Zero are able to land a hit on them, that can lead to them pulling off a huge high damage combo which the Cups would have no way of breaking out of. And speaking of breaking combos...
Oh boy, this one is a stupidly close match, but I have to give this to the Mortal Kombat boys.
Oh no, fuck that, I am not doing that voice. Due to stats being equalised, this comes down to a few factors. For one, Scorpion and Sub-Zero are trained ninjas, yeah, I've already said this. Cuphead and Mugman have only had their powers for a day, yeah, said that as well. Ribbit also brought up stamina by saying that the Cup Bros could fight all day and never get tired. But it should be noted that the MK ninjas can go up to 3 brutal rounds where they get impaled, slashed, bludgeoned, and have organs and bones broken. Yes, they break the state of Oregon every time they fight. So the Mortal Kombat ninjas won't be getting tired out anytime soon. Ultimately, I think the big factor here is abilities. Cuphead and Mugman have almost all projectile attacks with very few, if any, melee options. The MK ninjas, on the other hand, have far-ranged powers they can use, like freezing the floor, launching fire, and I've already said all of this, as well as abilities designed to get around projectile spam such as teleporting, Sub-Zero's slide, and Scorpion's kunai with the chain. So the MK ninjas can fight from afar until they see an opening to get in and finish them. Sorry Ribbit, but you really croaked on this one. Oh, what a great joke. I'm trying so hard not to laugh. You slay me, combo breaker. Liked Mr. Breaker just repeating my argument in his comment? This is just Moss vs Sheldon all over again.
I don't think 3 rounds is comparable to every single boss in Cuphead back to back. They do have the axe ability, which is actually a very useful ability if you can use it right. It packs a major punch damage wise, so if they do get in close, they aren't defenseless, especially since this attack leads to them bouncing off of their heads. This would allow them to go over them very easily. If they end up on the other side of them, they could very easily hit them from the other side with the roundabout, while still making a quick getaway.
I do agree with your points on the stop camping moves though. That'll make it really difficult for the Cups to stay at a distance, which they're really gonna need to do in this fight.
Sure, but Cuphead and Mugman have planes and teleportation themselves. I think they'd be able to keep their distance enough. I don't think either can fly, so that mobility would come in handy.
Still, the planes can't shoot straight down or behind them. The ninjas can get out of the line of fire by just moving behind them.
I'd like to bring up that one time that Scorpion and Sub-Zero went to another dimension and had their stats altered, as oddly specific as that sounds. Scorpion got his shit kicked in by the Joker. Yes, there was an in-universe explanation in Mortal Kombat vs DC Universe for the characters becoming similar in power, due to Dark Kahn's magic. Again, as oddly specific as that is. You could argue the Joker is competent enough to go toe-to-toe with Batman, but in Mortal Kombat vs DCU, Joker mainly fought with stuff like pies and boxing glove arms. This can also show that Scorpion does not play well against cartoony slapstick, but mainly that he and his pal what the fuck? that he and his pal, that name, won't be able to handle the convergence in stats well. His name is Cuphead and he likes roller coasters and hot dogs, and he has my vote for the next Galaxy Grudge match. I never considered this. Scorpion and Sub-Zero have not only shown to deal with stat alteration poorly, but also dealing with slapstick and cartoony methods poorly.
I have two rebuttals to this. First is that both Scorpion and Sub-Zero have adapted to changes in physicality before. Sub-Zero adapted just fine when being transformed from a human into a robot, and vice versa. Same with Scorpion becoming a Spectre. Not to mention, Scorpion's been buffed by the Elder Gods before and did not have an issue with his newfound strength. As for the cartoony slapstick, Joker's is clearly of a much more lethal variety than Cuphead and Mugman's, what with his guns and toxic gases and such.
These alterations are a little different, I will say. In one case, it was a whole new form taken. With the other, it was simply being altered to that of another verse, which is exactly what's happening here. Also, how are Cuphead and Mugman's attacks not as lethal? If they could be hurt by cartoony stuff in that game, this would likely be a similar case.
Oh god, I'm looking at the next comment I have to read. If going through this takes so long that you just have to go ahead and release both parts of the next 2 episodes before this one comes out, then I am very sorry. Shiitake mushrooms. Well, we're already off to a great start. I thought this would have been about the likelihood of the Devil and Shao Kahn making a forged deal to see which duo would get more soul contracts out of an exploration between the Cuphead and Mortal Kombat verses. Well, that's a wee shame, isn't it? So, this is actually closer than I thought it would be, but at the same time, it's not. What? Scorpion and Sub-Zero are given the victory handily, and for good reasons, but that's not to say the Cups will go down without a fight. The Cup brothers hold certain advantages off the bat. In terms of teamwork, they're likely to have the advantage in trusting one another. The Mortal Kombat games hold Scorpion vulnerable to the likes of training and keeping Sub-Zero's younger brother. There was an older brother, but in canon, I don't care. As a result, both sides have some form of team synergy they can utilise, but only the Cups would be sure to not try and backstab one another as the combatants might think for one another. Another advantage they have is range. Cuphead and Mugman use numerous potions that enable long-range projectiles, while Sub-Zero only has his Ice Blasts and Scorp his Fire Blasts. Well, why isn't Ribbit reading this one? The combatants have ways to get around that, more on that later, but at the start of the fight the Petri Dish Boys will have a somewhat substantial edge. Lastly, the Cups have a stable mindset. Scorpion and Sub-Zero are bloodlusted and somewhat unstable to a certain degree, which is sensible given the effed up world/series they come from. The Cups, however, don't have that applied to them, as they haven't experienced blood, insanity, or killed almost all of their targets. That's a double-edged sword, though. I've just checked and I'm not even halfway through this comment. Yeah. The Cup's normality in leaving the victims alive but beaten is normally great to work out a contract fulfillment. Unfortunately, these two are not gonna like Scorp and Sub when that happens. Seeing how brutality and determination aren't problems, they can keep going with broken bones, spilled blood, countless injuries, and much worse. If death's the only way to send him to the Netherrealm, then it's hard pressing because of what's next. The abilities and their stats are equal! Scorpion and Sub-Zero have so much more stuff to work with. Teleportation, freezing instantaneously, fire manipulation, chain wielding, a giant fiery hand, faking death, creating ice weapons like swords, hammers and more, and even sending someone straight to the Netherrealm. The Cups are folked? Yeah. When considering how unpredictable and uncanny these foes are, a huge factor in why they were able to overcome their previous contract enemies. And since the contracts mean to send someone's soul to I'm not saying that. Banning the dishes to Netherrealm is an instant win as it follows the logic. The last thing is physicality, which is irrelevant because stats are even anyway, so I get to skip the rest of this. Thank God.
Hello everybody, welcome to Galaxy Grudge Match episode 27. Today- Oh, you're finally done, Biffweed.
End me.
All of that for me to say that their stats are equalised, so none of that matters. Next comment.
Are you kidding me? I read all that for nothing? I spent God knows how long reading an entire Bible's worth of text just for you to say it didn't matter.
For my money, I am betting on Cuphead and Mugman. I agree with most of Ribbit's points about them being able to revive each other and whatnot, and the point of the bond being between them being significantly better. Also, I believe the point against them reviving is kind of moot, because due to the bonds, I don't believe Scorpion and Sub-Zero would be able to plan on taking both out at once. Now, time for my own points. First of all, Cuphead and Mugman have a vastly superior arsenal, and are also very good at dodging. Also, while Scorpion and Sub-Zero are undeniably more skilled in combat, it's not like Cuphead and Mugman are two chumps that don't know how to fight. Plus, I would bet that the Devil is older than Scorpion and Sub-Zero combined, and Cuphead and Mugman beat him with little to no difficulty. A point I'm surprised Biff didn't bring up is that they have to permanently destroy Scorpion's soul in order for him to be permanently dead. But Cuphead and Mugman have already fought the undead and ghosts. Fun fact, the Cuphead show storyboards got leaked and I watched it. Don't arrest me, please. But Mugman literally grabs Cuphead's ghost as it's being sucked away and pulls it back. This shows that they can revive each other much easier in canon than they can in-game. This also isn't a fight to the death per se. Scorpion and Sub-Zero's soul contracts are what they're after. They just need to knock them out, which is what they usually do. Basically, if they best them in combat, they win.
Cuphead and Mugman aren't chumps, but they really do not know how to fight. They just shoot. They've never thrown a punch, they've never fought hand to hand. The Devil doesn't showcase fighting skill either. We have no idea how old the guy is, but that doesn't matter since he's never shown any impressive hand-to-hand combat ability. Well, I think Scorpion, not Sub-Zero though, fuck that guy, would have an easy time with Cuphead and Mughead's immortality, yeah, since I believe he can send his enemies to the Netherrealm, aka Hell, and he can gain strength while in it. It's kind of like the final round from a Cuphead boss, except it gets stronger and stronger, which with something like that would lead to quite a lot of rage quites. I'm making a joke, but bet that would happen. The Tim is siding with me? I've got this in the bag now. Forfeit now, Ribbit. Save face while you still can.
Will do.
I think this is a pretty even match, but I think the edge would go to the ninjas. Cuphead and Mugman have the edge in team experience, but Scorpion and Sub-Zero have the overall combat experience. Mobility is even because their speed is equalised, the ninjas' reflexes, Cups dashing, and the fact that they can both teleport. What this comes down to is how each team fights. The Cups are strictly range fighters who rely on their wide variety of projectiles and maybe the axe, but like Ribbit says, who uses that? On the flip side, both Scorpion and Sub-Zero have ways to fight long-ranged and close-range. Granted, the Cups do have more to work with in terms of long range, but the point is they would still be able to at least keep up in a long-range projectile fight. But if the ninjas were to get close, the Cups would stand absolutely no chance, as they barely have any ways to fight close up. Well, this is what Scorpion and Sub-Zero does on a daily basis. The Cups wouldn't be able to stay at a safe distance the entire fight. Both have equal mobility, but the ninjas are the only ones who can sabotage the other's mobility by covering the floor in fire and ice. So in summary, while this is incredibly close, the ninjas do have enough ranged options to combat against the Cup's projectiles, and they have means to getting close towards the Cup Bros in which they could easily finish them off with their superior close-range combat abilities. Larold claims to be backing me up, but he says that the mobility for both sides is even though that's an edge the ninjas definitely have. So thank you, or should I say no thank you, because in Opposite World, maybe that means thank you.
Cuphead and Mugman can dash and fly around in their planes. They're more than used to people limiting where they can dash, and have gotten on just fine. Remember that the Devil's room is covered with hills, and below the area is a room filled with platforms. If the fight leads there, all they can really do is cover one at a time, which isn't much of a problem for Cuphead and Mugman. They've dealt with attacks just like that. My main point right now is that Cuphead and Mugman have dealt with most of the things that the other two can dish out. We've even seen them deal with ice stuff in the DLC trailer. Not out yet, I know, but it's still worth mentioning that they can fight just fine against ice manipulators.
Fighting ice manipulators doesn't mean they get an automatic pass against anyone with the same powers. Sub-Zero uses ice in a way they've never had to fight, same with Scorpion and his fire. That's like saying Scorpion and Sub-Zero are used to fighters like Cuphead and Mugman because some Mortal Kombat characters use guns and energy-based projectiles. Anyway, we've covered Green Hair Dye's comment, now let's cover the comment from Green himself.
Cuphead and Mugman in the run and gun sections of the game show that they can fight off smaller enemies and multiple enemies at once without tiring. Depending on what arsenal they have, something like the split shot can be a decent defensive attack, as it covers more area that the ninjas won't be able to get near. While Scorpion and Sub-Zero are better fighters due to their training, they specialise in one-to-one martial arts combat, which is primarily fighting a close-up target that is similarly sized to you. The Cup brothers being smaller and having fought in different scenarios gives them a slight edge in diverse movement. I also think Scorpion and Sub-Zero not getting on as well as the other duo may lead to some headbutting, especially dealing with their elemental based attacks. If not coordinated well, they could end up negating each other. While Scorpion and Sub-Zero are definitely strong fighters, I'm personally inclined to say that Cuphead and Mugman have an edge in combat.
Oh, what the hell, Joseph? When I said you should leave a comment so we could bully you, I didn't mean you could think for yourself and side against me. 7 years of friendship and this is how it ends.
You actually bring up a strong point with the run and gun levels argument. Small targets, always on the move, and coming at them from different angles. They deal with all that well and good. Also yeah, if they get in close, the spread's another good option.
Still, in the run and gun segments, there are usually safe points where enemies can't touch them, a luxury they wouldn't have here. Said enemies are also far less aggressive than Scorpion and Sub-Zero. Also, Sub-Zero's ice can withstand fire just fine. His ice sword held up against a flaming sword, and his attacks work just fine in the Netherrealm. They won't butt heads either. They don't have the Cup's brotherly bond, but in Mortal Kombat 11 they demonstrate a clear ability to work together well to take down Sector and Cyrax. We're in the home stretch now. Let's go over one more comment for each side. Alright, so Nemesis submitted his as a Google Doc, and the title of the doc is "I made it as short as I could, I promise." I don't believe you. God help me. Though Ribbit delivered a not altogether incompetent argument, I believe my vote will have to fall on the side of Scorpion and Sub-Zero. Some of Ribbit's rebuttals, while capable, do not entirely defend from the points made by Biff. Scorpion's revival abilities likely aren't being considered, as his canonical reason for being able to come back, that being he just knows his way out of hell, would mean that the scenario would be a complete guaranteed victory for Biff. If Scorpion could transport them to the Netherrealm, Scorpion could not die, period, unless the Cups had a way to deal with his soul, which, to my knowledge, they do not. Attacks in Cuphead are often either telegraphed or follow consistent patterns that can be predicted. They're also slower as well. Well, at least they move slower compared to some of the special moves usable by the ninja. With stats equalised, Cuphead and Mugman do not have any experience fighting foes just as fast as them that do not also have telegraphed or patterned attacks. You fail to ring up any counters against Cuphead and Mugman having a harder time hitting Scorpion and Sub-Zero. Yes, their planes are a point in their favour that the ninjas don't have a direct counter to, however a plane that can be destroyed is generally inferior to a teleportation that can be spammed incessantly. A good counter to this would be that the ninjas don't teleport spam, even though Scorpion does sometimes, Sub-Zero doesn't usually do it at all. Cuphead and Mugman have superior ranged capabilities, but the ninjas are not completely outgunned. Scorpion does have the ability to create fire directly underneath them, which would cause a lot of trouble to avoid them, and one hit from Sub-Zero is significantly more deadly than one from a finger gun, as it completely immobilizes them for a short period of time, which gives either ninja the chance to teleport in and do heavy damage. Up close, Cuphead and Mugman are completely outgunned. They wouldn't stand a chance. So what's more likely? The teleporting ninja will get up close, or the Cups will get away from the teleporting ninja and keep their distance. There's nothing the Cups have that would keep the ninjas at a distance, because they can close the gap in a literal instant with teleportation, which both of them have. The ninja's teleportation can also move them much greater distances. Sub-Zero was able to teleport from off-screen into a dungeon, and Scorpion was able to teleport from the ground into a moving helicopter. Scorpion's teleportation can also create an explosion, so he doesn't even need to attack the Cups out of it, he can just teleport them and that alone will deal damage. Additionally, Scorpion can BFR people into the Netherrealm without having to touch them. If he were to throw Cuphead or Mugman to, say, the 5th plane of the Netherrealm, there's no coming back from that. The ceramics bring each other back by parrying their souls, but that part of the Netherrealm specifically destroys souls. In Mortal Kombat 11, Scorpion and Sub-Zero demonstrate a clear ability to work together. They are completely capable of teaming up and fighting as allies regardless of their history, so the idea that they'd want to avoid fighting together is a moot point. So while I applaud Ribbit's arguments, some of which are not altogether incompetent, Scorpion and Sub-Zero are solely in a caliber of their own. They'll have no problem smashing the brothers and won't feel guilty about using their gear to cause such a violent injustice. You know what, it is better than every comment ending in "it wouldn't be a stretch," so, you know, I'll take it, I suppose.
Oh boy, a lot of points, so let's go. A lot of Scorpion and Sub-Zero's attacks are pretty telegraphed. Cuphead and Mugman have broken out of Calamaria's petrification that surrounds them with rock. Cuphead and Mugman's planes are fully capable of shrinking and flipping over, which would for sure get them off. I don't even know if they'd fit on the planes. If they don't land on them, they'll just fall back down. Yes, they are outgunned up close, but Cuphead and Mugman have enough close-ranged options to keep them at bay while they get close. And Cuphead fights usually take place in quite small areas, so longer distance teleportation isn't changing too much. I suppose they could teleport to places where Cuphead and Mugman can't see them, but that's hardly enough to change my mind when Cuphead and Mugman could easily revive each other if they get too flustered. But most of all, I feel bad for Biffweed, having to read like 2 Bibles in one video.
I feel bad for me too. I didn't even know I could do that. Still, Nemosimp Bloodclot does bring up some not altogether incompetent arguments himself. Like Scorpion's ability to summon fire from the ground, their far greater teleportation, and their greater teamwork than people give them credit for. Now, we've saved the best comment for last. Let's see what Ducko has to say.
Cuphead and his pal Mugman probably got this in my opinion. People who are even enough in stats but should logically be considered less skilled have beaten the ninjas before, though I doubt Cuphead or his pal Mugman would punch them in the nuts. Not to mention if you rip off both of their heads, only one duo would be okay, which would at least initially surprise Scorpion and Sub-Zero, giving Cuphead and his pal Mugman enough time to deal a counter-attack, to allow them to go away and back to keeping their distance. Plus, we've seen in various fighting games, small, quick and nimble fighters can turn out to be some of the most annoying characters to fight against, such as Yoda from Soul Calibur, Surfbot from Marvel vs. Capcom 2, or even Pikachu in the first Super Smash Bros. Especially if they have a lot of versatility to add. I'm mostly trying to bring up no points that I haven't already seen, but suffice to say I agree with the majority of the comments that are offering support for Cuphead and his pal Mugman. Oh, by the way, scratch Surfbot and Pikachu! Scratch that! By the way, gone from taking time. Thanks, Doug.
Oh, Jesus Christ, Ducko. Yes, Pikachu is only good in Smash 64, not in any other iterations of the game that came out since then. And what's with this removing their age on Ikir's group logic? If you want to go down that route, then Cuphead and Mugman also beat your precious Alien X. You can't come in and save the day this time.
It is true that a lot of Cuphead and Mugman's abilities would catch the ninjas off guard, most notably the head thing. Also yeah, smaller targets are a nuisance in any game, let alone a fighting game. Cuphead and Mugman might be a little too unconventional compared to Mortal Kombat's usual rogues gallery.
Yeah, there's not much more to say here. It's about time we came to a conclusion. Methinks we should go to Space Denny's. We haven't been kicked out of there yet.
Sounds like a plan. We ended up getting kicked out after all. 1-0.
Not our fault they couldn't handle us shouting over fictional characters. But anyway, let's start to wrap things up. First off, we want to thank you all for all the predictions we received. To my knowledge, this is the most Galaxy Grudge match has ever gotten.
In fact, we had to leave a good number of them out, so sorry if yours didn't get featured.
Oh, actually, I found one more. Cuphead and Mugman would also win if they used their giant Sogos to put Scorpion and Sub-Zero in a giant bag and send them to Mexico or somewhere.
Stop with the bag-based arguments!
No, I don't think I will. That ghost is going to bring the ninjas right to them. Anyway, poll time.
Oh wow, the poll was super close. Only a 1 vote difference. And that makes sense, because it did take a while to decide.
Both of us remained confident in our sides prevailing, but I eventually relented to the Cups taking the win. But as the Versus Icon Wiz would say, this was an extremely close match. But alas, our battle is finished. You are now free from my curse. Live well, Leng Kuei Warrior.
Basically, what we concluded was that Scorpion and Sub-Zero would win up close, while Cuphead and his pal Mugman would win in a range battle. But what made you change your mind?
For starters, Cuphead and Mugman's adaptability to new situations greatly outdid Scorpion and Sub-Zero. The ninjas have a pretty spotty win-loss record, much like myself at this point, but oh well. They both tend to lose to new opponents they have no experience against, and then win if they ever meet again. If this was a best 2 out of 3, then I'd say they have a pretty good shot, but that's not how this works. Cuphead and Mugman canonically defeating every boss in the game on their first try shows insane adaptability to the sheer variety of attacks they can keep up with. Scorpion and Sub-Zero have some cheap tricks that can catch them off guard once, especially Scorpion with its teleportation and ability to raise fire from the ground, and it's highly unlikely the Cups will fall for them again after that. Also, in a scenario where both are as durable as the other, the Cups aren't going to be taken out that easily. In fact, they may actually be more durable thanks to the extra hearts. And while Scorpion and Sub-Zero would dominate them in a fistfight, they'd struggle to keep the Cups up close. Anytime Scorpion or Sub-Zero teleport closer, the Cups can just teleport away again. There's more I could bring up, like how they've adapted poorly to being made weaker in the past, and they're the only ones dealing with a stat change at all. But I've already read 2 huge walls of text today, and I don't really feel like writing one on my own. I think I got the main points across.
I know we say this every time, but this was pretty damn close.
Yeah, it took us a good while to come to a conclusion on this one, but what took a good few hours to decide for us will only take a few minutes to decide for these 2 duos. So, let's see how things turned out. The Cups had the ninja duo on the ropes. Though they'd managed to hold a lead whenever they got in close, the Cups were able to escape their grasp every time and keep the fight at a distance. Sub-Zero was able to freeze and incapacitate Mugman, but Cuphead was able to fill his super meter shortly after this and was able to blast them both with the energy beam. As Cuphead stood in front of his defeated foes, Kahn shouted, "Finish him!" It was at this point the Elder Gods had caught wind of Kahn in this other realm. Had Cuphead successfully claimed their souls, Kahn would have merged Inkwell with Earthrealm, violating the rules of Mortal Kombat. The gods granted the duos a newfound power, enough for them to turn the tables on the Devil and Shao Kahn, defeating them both. After all was said and done, Scorpion and Sub-Zero turned to the Cup brothers and bowed, before Scorpion created a portal back to Earthrealm. Cuphead and Mugman rejoiced and headed back to their home as quickly as possible to inform everyone that they were free of the Devil's debt. Inkwell Isle was safe once again.
I'm alive, and if you wanna be the teacher's pet, baby, you just better forget it. I got no reason, I got no rhyme. You better get me to school on time. And if you wanna be the teacher's pet, baby, you just better forget it. I got no reason, I got no rhyme. You better get me to school on time. Oh yeah!
Stop with the bag! Oh wait, no, just use the audio from that episode actually. That'd be funnier. I need a drink, man.